Are you wanting to impress your children with an awesome playhouse built by you? In this video, I'm going to show you how to blow their socks off by making this awesome playhouse with just basic tools if you need to. This build has allowed me to keep the kids entertained for 2 summers. Knowing that they're safe and playing well has allowed me to do other projects undisturbed in the garden. Let's have a look how I've managed to elevate myself to super dad status, how I've managed to keep the kids happy, and all in just one weekend. So this is a playhouse we're going to build, but before we get to the end we need to start with some materials. Now you can either go to your local big box store, or I prefer to use somewhere like this. This is Leeds Wood Recycling. This is a charitable organisation that recycles commercial wood waste and sells it on to hobbyists at a nice cheap price. Now I've already identified the space that I want to use, and I now need to lay out my material to make the base. I'm going to start off with some 2x4s. I've got 3 long lengths and 2 end pieces. To join the boards together, I'm going to use some leftover deck screws, but these aren't long enough, so I'm going to have to make a small incision to reduce that gap, but still leaving enough material for that wood to bite together. So once we're happy the frame is square, we need to get it in position, and it's at this point I realise that I need to chop this bush back a little bit. I'm sure it'll grow back in time. So now it's on to putting the 4 corner posts in. For these I've used 3x2s, and when I'm happy they're level I screw them into place. Now one thing I have found beneficial when working on my own is having a set of clamps. These squeezy clamps are a couple of quid and you can pick them up whilst you're getting your wood at the big box store. With the 4 corners nicely in place, it's on to putting some cross members on. Again, the clamps pay for themselves here. Quick go over with spirit level, and once I'm happy it is all plumb, I drive in a couple more screws on each side. Now I need to explain the design I've gone for. It's quite simple, nearly as simple as my drawing skills. It's going to have obviously 4 corners, 2 big uprights. They're not quite in the middle, they're offset to one side. That's to give a bit more headroom for my little one to stand up. Now we're going to start framing out for the roof now, and this is going to bring some structural integrity as it all gets tied together. So far I've only used a circular saw to cut things and a drill to put things in. There's nothing here that couldn't be done with a handsaw and a drill alone. Now hopefully this view should show you how basic the framing is, but I can promise you this thing is rock solid once it's all tied together. We're on to the last couple of bits for framing out. First of all, I'm going to frame for the windows. This isn't something that you have to do, but if you want a bit of natural light, it's a must really. Now for making the cuts in my sheet goods, I've been using this circular saw rather a lot. However, this doesn't do anything that a normal saw wouldn't. If you would prefer one of these, you can pick one up cheap second-hand on Marketplace, or places like Lidl have them for around £30. A bargain that you will use again and again. And with the saw set up, I use a straight edge to keep this cut line true. For angle pieces it's no different. You can either freehand this down the line that you've drawn, or you can use straight edge, a couple of screws and we're all attached. For outdoor projects where I'm attaching wood to things like acrylic, I use this. It's basically a liquid adhesive. It's nice and weatherproof, easy to use, and you honestly can't go wrong for £3 or £4. The only other thing you require is to put a little bit of clamping pressure on it. And with the framing all complete, it's time to move on to the cladding. Now I prefer to do my prep in advance by sanding and painting. I then cut all the pieces to length. Now I promise you that this was a beginner's build, but to save myself time I invested in one of these for £25. It's a nail gun. It's dead basic, point, press and shoot. Saves hours. But again, there's nothing here that couldn't be done with a good old-fashioned hammer and nail. I took a fair bit of time to make sure that I got the first piece in straight. I didn't want to get to the top to find that I was on a major slant. Taking a little bit of extra time to keep coming back, checking for square and level makes such a difference. Now one of the key parts on this build is to remember to leave a gap for the windows. And thanks to the nail gun, the cladding took around an hour, which I didn't think was a bad time for such a large amount of wood to go on. For the door, I decided to cut it out in situ. I went back with a handsaw and trimmed this up just to make sure that everything was flush. Moving on to the roof, I bought some felt tiles from Amazon. Nice and easy. The final bit on the exterior is to add some trim to neaten up these edges. It's just a simple piece of wood painted in the same colour scheme. And there we go, we are halfway through day 2 and this is where we're starting to get to. It looks like an actual playhouse. Now only to add a door. Now the door is quite simple in design, it's just a rectangle with some bracing. I got a little bit posh here and did some half laps, but you don't need to, you could quite easily just screw this together with some simple butt joints. A little bit of exterior wood glue and some screws will have this thing held nice and tight. For me, it's great having my children involved in the build. This helps me pass on a little bit of knowledge and also spend some quality time that's not gaming. As with any door or gate, it's really important that everything is square. If it's not square, it's going to sag and it won't fit the hole nicely. Once I'm confident everything is square, it's time to drive a couple of screws in and reinforce that glue to make sure that everything holds together over time. There's nothing fancy for the hinges, it's just a basic set from the big box store. You get your helper to hold the door, screw them in, and then celebrate when it actually works. To make the door stand out a little bit more, I'm going to run the boards in the opposite direction. This should add a nice little bit of contrast. To add to the contrast, I'm going to go with a different colour. This is the same colour that I've done all the trim in, so everything should tie in quite nicely and have a constant theme. For the handle, I'm going to trace around a butterfly. Cut this out on the bandsaw and then attach it with a piece of dowel. Again, keep it as simple as you can, but if you really wanted to, you can just buy a doorknob from the big box store. Attaching couldn't be any easier. Drill a hole where you mark out, add some glue and clamp it in place. Leave an hour and it'll be firm as anything. Always make sure you wipe up your spill though. Now I have since had to take the door off to do some repair work after my son swung on it. It clearly can't take an 11-year-old's weight. But other than that, I'm so impressed with how this came out. I'll not go into the decoration on the inside. You can cover that bit yourself. Paint it, lino, astroturf, whatever you want to do. Hopefully this has given you some ideas about what is achievable in your own garden, what you can do with some basic tools, and how you can provide a safe play environment for your children that will make them think that you're a hero.